Subscribe to Farm Logic now, because what you're about to hear explains why farmers kept soil damp through drought centuries before plastic mulch or irrigation timers ever existed. When I first covered my garden beds with grain hulls, I did not expect a dramatic result. What followed forced me to revisit agricultural records that stretch back thousands of years. Moisture stayed locked in the soil days longer than bare ground, even under heat that normally bakes beds dry by mid-morning. This was not luck. It was the rediscovery of a practice once common wherever grains were harvested and water was scarce. Subscribing to Farm Logic means staying connected to these field-tested methods that history quietly preserved because they worked. Grain hull mulching was a deliberate system in pre-industrial farming. Grain hulls, whether from rice, wheat, barley, millet or oats, were never treated as waste in traditional farming societies. After threshing, hulls were spread across fields, orchards and garden plots. Ancient texts from Asia, the Middle East and parts of Europe describe their use as surface cover long before the word mulch entered agricultural language. Farmers observed that hulls created a breathable blanket. Unlike dense straw mats, hulls interlocked loosely, shading soil while allowing air exchange. This slowed evaporation without sealing the ground, a balance modern mulches often fail to achieve. Why hull structure traps moisture better than most modern materials? The secret lies in surface area and silica content. Grain hulls are lightweight but highly textured. Each hull creates these tiny microscopic air pockets that slow the wind across the soil surface, and at the same time hulls rich in silica resist rapid breakdown, so they actually persist long enough to protect the soil through entire growing seasons. Morning dew and light rainfall are absorbed briefly by the hull layer and then released slowly downward. Instead of water just flashing off into the air, it migrates into the root zone. This creates really stable moisture conditions that reduce plant stress and encourage much deeper rooting. So, what happened in my garden once the hull layer went down? Well, within the first week, soil temperature stabilized. Those midday heat spikes softened, and early morning moisture actually remained detectable for hours longer than in the uncovered beds. You know, earthworms moved upward instead of retreating deeper, which is really a clear sign that the surface environment had become hospitable. After several weeks, fungal threads became visible beneath the hull layer. This fungal activity, well, it further improved moisture retention by binding soil particles and increasing organic matter formation. The soil did not just stay wet, it became structured. Let's talk about how ancient farmers applied grain hulls with intention. Historical records indicate hulls were applied in moderate layers, never packed tightly. Too thick a layer could shed water, and too thin offered limited protection. The common practice was to spread hulls after planting once seedlings were established, allowing stems to pass easily through the loose cover. In orchards, hulls were refreshed seasonally, especially before dry months. As hulls slowly broke down, they were incorporated lightly into the soil surface, feeding microbes without disrupting roots. So, let's talk about how you can really apply this method effectively today, using just a few simple steps. First off, always begin with clean, untreated grain hulls. It's important to avoid hulls that have been contaminated with herbicides or any chemical treatments. Before you get started, make sure to water the soil thoroughly, so there's already moisture present below the surface. Next, spread the hulls evenly to a depth that shades the soil, but doesn't smother your plants. For vegetables, this usually means a thin but continuous layer. If you're working around fruit trees or perennial beds, a slightly thicker coverage tends to work well. After you've applied the hulls, give everything a light watering, just enough to settle the hulls in place without compressing them. Over the following days, be sure to observe the moisture levels. You'll find, as many growers do, that irrigation intervals can often be extended quite a bit. In container gardens especially, hulls are really effective at reducing that rapid drying you get from wind exposure. So, why does grain hull mulch outperform wood chips in many cases? Well, wood chips are fantastic for long-term carbon input, but they often repel water at first and can tie up nitrogen right near the surface. Grain hulls, on the other hand, behave quite differently. They let water in straight away and break down more evenly, releasing nutrients without causing those sharp spikes in microbial demand. For annual crops and intensive gardens, hulls really do provide protection without creating those nutrient bottlenecks. Plus, they warm up faster in the spring, so you avoid that cold soil delay you sometimes get under heavy wood mulch. And, historical evidence backs up their use, especially in dry and marginal climates. In regions where irrigation was, a bit unreliable, hull mulching was absolutely essential. Archaeological soil profiles near ancient granaries frequently show elevated organic matter and moisture retention compared to the surrounding land. This was not coincidence, not at all. Fields closest to processing areas received the most hull cover, and they remain productive longer during those dry cycles. In some cultures, hulls were even traded as a soil amendment, valued, honestly, nearly as highly as manure in arid zones. There's this overlooked advantage of hulls in modern resilience gardening. Beyond just holding in moisture, hulls suppress weeds by blocking light, yet they remain easy to pull aside for planting. They also reduce soil crusting, which is a major problem after heavy rains followed by heat. Over time, they contribute to a fungal-dominant soil structure, and that's associated with stable yields and reduced disease pressure. Most importantly, they turn an agricultural byproduct into a soil asset, closing a loop that industrial systems, broke apart. What this practice teaches us about forgotten efficiency is quite something. Ancient farmers did not waste effort, not for a moment. If a material returned value to the soil, it was used. Grain hull mulching survived for centuries because it required no special tools, no transport over long distances, and really no ongoing expense. Rediscovering it is not a trend. It is, in fact, a correction. If this kind of grounded, historically proven agricultural knowledge matters to you, then do subscribe to Farm Logic and share this guide with others who believe the future of farming lies in understanding what already worked.